Okay, ask yourself a question. Is the tale of Iroh the best overall part of the episode? Or is its ending the best overall part? Yeah, I'm really pulling an Up on you guys with this question. However, unlike Up, I actually do consider the tale of Iroh to be a masterpiece in its own right. It's all about Iroh going about his day and helping anyone he comes across. A perfect testament to his good nature. These little vignettes within a vignette are all loosely connected, yet they all paint a beautiful picture of this kindly old man and the lengths he goes to help any stranger he comes across. From the little boy he sings to the kids he gives advice to the guy trying to mug him. I mean, really, think about that. Iroh is being mugged, yet after knocking the guy who's mugging him down, he takes the time to not only give him advice on how his stance should be, but also what he should do with his life. He could have just walked away, but instead he sits down and changes this guy's life for the better by talking to him and believing in him. What a saint. And yet, he still has to live with the fact that he wasn't able to help his son. Here he is, on his son's birthday, in the city where his son perished in battle. All the pieces have been put in place for one tour de force, emotionally devastating scene, and it doesn't disappoint. If you don't cry from Iroh's tearful tribute to his late son, you will cry from the episode's tribute to Iroh's late voice actor.
This is the story that'll make you a real reporter.
Alright, this is probably going to be my most controversial ranking on any of these lists. Aside from that Rio bullshit, I guess. But I'm just going to be totally honest. I adore The French Dispatch, more so than any other Wes Anderson film, with one exception. I scoured a ton of rankings, both from film journalists and Letterboxd users, and I couldn't find a single one that ranked French Dispatch so high. Hell, seeing it in the top half of a list was a rarity, and almost every reasoning given boils down to the same criticism. It's an anthology film consisting of 3 unrelated shorts. Of course it can't rank higher than movies that have a singular story, with themes and character arcs and all that jazz. This one's simple, and it's cutesy, and it's too all over the place by its nature as an anthology film. Look, I'm not gonna try and win you over to this film's side if it's not your thing. All I ask is that you respect my opinion that this is probably the single best directed film Wes has ever made. You can like the scripts and the characters of other films better. Hell, the script and characters of my #1 film are the reason it outdid this one. But purely from a directorial standpoint, this movie is insane. It goes beyond just having symmetry and nicely composed shots. It's one of the best examples of the intricacies and intimacy of live theater being captured on film. There are so many brilliant touches that feel like I'm watching a play, more so than the movie that's actually a play in universe. The way the set parts and rolls away as Zeffirelli and Juliet come together. The impeccable lighting and color as they remain stationary on a motorcycle, all as Timothée Chalamet waxes poetic. When the older Rosenthaler tags in for the younger one in prison, a far more powerful reflection of the passage of time than digitally de-aging actors could ever be. The montage depicting the places Rosenthaler's painting went, where everyone tries to hold freeze frames of a dynamic scene and slightly moves back and forth. Most directors would have just taken a still picture of these shots so the actors stayed completely still. But it's these slight movements, these little imperfections, that breathe so much life into the concept of this shot. It's like, yes, this is one of the purest instances of theater I've ever seen captured on film. And yes, this film is so memorable and distinct primarily because of its visuals. But like, film is a visual medium, man. I don't know what to tell ya. And like, obviously Anderson has written more in-depth stories and characters in the past, compared to what these 3 shorts are able to provide. But like, even though they're short, I don't know, I still love these 3 stories and their characters. Benicio del Toro as a literal tortured artist struggling to find the will to keep creating while in prison, all as an ultra slimy Adrian Brody tries to exploit his talent for financial gain. That's great! That's a great ass story! This entire movie deserves to exist just for the wheelchair chase scene alone. Like, tell me you didn't crack at least a smile at that. On its own, this is a perfectly plotted short that I don't really have any problems with. The second one can get bogged down by a slightly weird and confusing premise. Like, why are the police playing chess with these protesting boys? Is that like an actual thing in real life, or is it just a quirky Wes Andersonism? But ultimately, it's a wonderful story about Timothée Chalamet bumbling his way into becoming a revolutionary icon. I love his ego about his writing and the relationships he forms with the women in his life. It's so entertaining. And then there's the final story. Jeffrey Wright kills it, recounting a tale about how he got caught up in a hostage situation where the police chief's son was kidnapped. It's tense and absurd at the same time. A crazy act to balance. The way it all culminates with that animated segment is great, and nothing makes me laugh harder than the part where they all get out of their cars, chase each other on foot, and then end up back where their cars are only to get back in them and keep driving. Just sheer gold. I previously found the final story to veer a little too far into absurdism, with all these kidnappers willingly eating the food prepared for them by the people they're trying to get a ransom out of. But I don't know, I changed my mind. The absurdism is just right. And I like the conclusion of the story where Bill Murray and Jeffrey Wright argue about the point of it. It seems like Jeffrey Wright just wanted to tell a fun escapade, even going so far as to leave out the most emotional bit of the story, that being the connection he forms with the chef since they're both foreigners. I think there's some really interesting commentary here on the idea of just wanting to tell a fun little story with no deeper meaning versus finding ways to derive meaning and powerful emotion out of something that didn't seem to have it at first glance. It's a wonderful little scene, and probably the best Wes has ever gotten at writing a distinctly non-white perspective. I really hope he builds upon it in his future films. Overall, I would rank the first story as the best, then the third, then the second. All bangers all the time though. I'll give the first story a 10 and the last two a 9. So ultimately, while it lacks a lot of the thematic depth that enhances a ton of other Wes films, it's just impeccably entertaining from a visual and writing perspective. It's hard to say if it's underrated in the same way something like Darjeeling Limited is, because a lot of people just can't get as invested in a collection of short films as they can a fully fleshed out narrative feature. But I don't think the kind of film this is a valid reason to dismiss it out of hand. The characters are still interesting and endearing, the stories are still engaging, and the visuals are flat out insane. I never get tired of this movie no matter how many times I see it. And that sentiment is also true for my number one pick. I'm actually about to pass out, it's so hot in here. Ooh, I need food. But I gotta finish this first.
Waluigi?
It's a really great pinball. Is that a good title? They have to be like puns or whatever?
Putting aside Coconut Mall's nerfs for a second, can we just admire the sheer audacity this game had to end its banana cup with back-to-back Coconut Mall and Waluigi pinball? Like, yeah, no big deal. Here's two of the best courses in any racing game ever coming one after the other. There are genuinely so few games that exude as much Giga Chad energy as Mario Kart 7. Anyway, as you probably guessed from its placement, Waluigi Pinball has not been nerfed in the slightest. The original vision of this sheer masterpiece of a course is perfectly intact. They didn't change much up because why would they need to? Racing alongside those giant pinballs is as thrilling as ever, and it's actually a really cool use of the 3D effects, right? Remember that? It was like the main selling point of the 3DS? Anyone? Am I the only person who still uses the 3D slider? Anyway, the atmosphere is still electric, the colors are still vibrant, the layout is as twisty and fun as ever. Just, this is it, baby. This is peak fiction right here. It's a course so good, they knew they had to bring it back, even if Waluigi himself wasn't gonna be on the roster. Kinda cruel of them, actually, but oh well. Simply a course that cannot be topped. Except by, well, King Boo is, in my humble opinion, one of the most perfect Mario Kart characters of all time. Everything I said about King Babam applies to this guy tenfold. Such a simple yet perfect design that conveys everything you need to know about him. Such delightful voice lines that straddle the line between creepy and goofy so expertly. Such an iconic yet not overused character to spice up every roster he appears in. I love how he sticks his tongue out when you're making sharp turns with a bike in Wii. Hell, I just love everything about him. He's been a consistent go-to character for me in every game he's in, and I've finally settled on him as my main for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe.
We seem to be made to suffer. It's our lot in life.
It was a pretty close call between these last two films, but in the end, I think I'm gonna have to give the slight runner-up spot to A New Hope. Don't get me wrong, this is easily the film where 3PO is the most important to the plot, and he and R2 have to carry the opening chunk of the movie on their backs. I just like aspects of 3PO's role in the other film a little bit better, but that shouldn't undermine his significance in the OG film. For the first 17 minutes, he's basically the main character. He has the first line of dialogue in the film, and we follow him and R2 trying to escape the battle and get those plans as far away as possible. I really enjoy their bickering and the sharp contrast to how nervous and unwilling 3PO is to do anything mildly treacherous, while R2 just heads face first into danger. I also want to mention that as a kid, I never understood 3PO saying my joints are almost frozen because he was on the hot desert planet. How would his joints freeze? Shouldn't he say that on Hoth?
This is madness.
Also, I like the part where 3PO just gives R2 a little kick. Yeah, get his ass. And the part where he blinks. What was that about, and why has that never happened since? Ooh. And the part in the Jawa Sandcrawler where he's like, R2, it is you. Just the sheer joy in his voice, even though they kinda had a falling out earlier. It really sells the idea that these two are best friends who bicker sometimes, but care a lot about each other. And hearing 3PO stick up for R2 when the Mandalorian's future droid blows a gasket and Luke needs another one, it's all some wholesome stuff. From this point on, now that we've met Luke, 3PO transitions into a more supporting role, and he does pretty well in that regard. It's kind of funny how everyone talks about how important it is to get these droids out of the hands of the Empire and to the Rebellion, but like, R2's the important one with the Death Star plans, and 3PO's kinda just along for the ride. Still, he has plenty of iconic and delightful moments. The let the Wookiee win scene is really charming. He actually pulls some clever tricks on stormtroopers to get them out of his business, and it's cool how he manages to save everyone from the trash compactor. Plus, it's pretty funny how he assumes everyone is dying in agony. The only thing really holding him back in this movie is the fact that once they leave the Death Star, he's kinda just relegated to the background without much to say or do. I like his concern for R2, and it makes for a really cute moment with the two of them in the last scene. But yeah, overall, he kinda falls off in terms of relevance by the last act of the film. Even so, this is overall the most significant role he's had in any of these movies, helping guide us into this universe and making for a compelling character to follow during the opening act of the film. A more than worthy introduction for our golden boy. However, there's one film I like him in even better. Number 2, Luigi's Mansion. While small battle courses are fun, it's nice to have one with some breathing room for a change. Tons of layers and places to hide. With a great aesthetic that sneaks in a ton of references to the portrait ghosts from Luigi's Mansion. Something that the Mario Kart 8 version took out. SMH, my head. Oh well, the original's got a great aesthetic, great layout, and overall, it's a true banger.
I'm from Missouri! Frowning's a state sport!
Frowning Friends is just 11 straight minutes of some of the funniest gags and side characters you'll see in any cartoon ever. It's kind of insane how much every little bit of it works. Maybe the boss's insanity feels a little forced, but given what that leads to, I can't really complain. The plot is simple. So simple, in fact, that it allows the episode to have a perfect comedic flow. We don't need to waste time with Charlie and Pim thinking about what to do next. We just get to see what random, wacky characters they can help in order to counteract the nasty effects of Grim and Gnarly. Mwahahaha. One little bit of this episode I really like is how Pim and Charlie immediately realize that their evil doppelgangers are causing trouble with these people. Like, we don't have to waste time on them figuring that out. Charlie saying, "Oh, I see what's going on here," immediately is just really funny to me for some reason. But who cares about that when we have the all-star lineup of side characters? DJ Spit, the guy with the weird head who just inexplicably morphs into DJ Spit, and my personal favorite, the one and only 3D Squelton. Oh, boo-hoo! I'm genuinely obsessed with 3D Squelton. You guys have no idea. He might be my favorite side character in this entire show. And he even comes alongside one of my favorite jokes in the entire show, the helium bit. Like, genuinely, what other show would even think of a joke like that? It's so funny, and it's made even better by the fact that it makes you at home go, wait, is that actually true? It seems like we'll have enough for 100 to 200 more years. But like, if it's a non-renewable resource that we need for important shit like MRI machines, why the hell are we wasting it on balloons? I think we can all live without balloons, guys. Sorry, 3D Squelton, I have to step on your dream because MRIs are more important. Anyway, back on track. There are so many other great jokes in this. From Get Out of My Head, to the scene that that apparently really pissed off nihilists, where Grim pisses his pants in fear, to the Puerto Rican joke, which I can't believe they pulled off. It's so out of pocket, but it works because it's the villain saying it, and nobody else is on board except for that one weirdo asshole. The show just consistently handles potentially offensive humor really well, but nothing compares to its wacky humor, which this episode arguably has the crown jewel of. The Renaissance Men. Everything about this joke is perfect. From the smooth and natural conversations Pim and Charlie have, to the way it bookends the story, to Pim's insistence that those aren't Renaissance men, that's a completely different era. Like, that's what he's hung up on, and not the fact that they just showed up and randomly killed 2 people. Oh, this show is so funny, good lord. Frowning Friends is a delightful tale of the overwhelming power of positivity and a bunch of medieval guys randomly showing up to shoot evil people with arrows. And it has 3D Squelton in it. So yeah, this was obviously a really strong contender for the overall best episode of the series. But for me personally, it falls just short of one other.
You were my brother! Damn! I loved you!
A Tale of Two Stands. An episode that I've always adored and considered to be top tier Gravity Falls. I'm honestly a sucker for well done emotional backstory episodes that flesh out a side character, because I love how they expand the universe of the series and show how there's so much more than the dogmatic narrow view of the main characters. This episode is really special and the creative team knows it, opting for a 30-minute episode rather than the standard 22 minutes in order to tell this absolutely captivating story of 2 brothers tragically growing apart without rushing any aspect of it. It perfectly establishes Ford's entire character and history, while also serving as an amazing backstory for Stan and how he came in possession of the shack. Every aspect of the story is riveting, from the brothers' childhood bond, to Stan's initial unfortunate screw-up, to the part that's bound to make any Gravity Falls fan squeal as much as Dipper did, Ford's creation of the journals and the mystery shack. It's all incredible stuff. But then, the episode hits you with the scene that's even more tense and tragic than the climax of Not What He Seems. Stan and Ford's fight that ends with Ford accidentally being sucked into the portal. A monumental screw-up that Stan dedicates the next 30 years to trying to undo. He's not a super smart guy, but he learned how to get this high-tech portal back online just for the sake of getting his brother back. Like, that's incredible dedication. Honestly, this entire episode is just such a potent tragedy. A tale of 2 brothers torn apart by unfortunate circumstances that ends with them still on bad terms even after one of them risked everything to save the other. It's an incredible episode that was extremely close to topping my list, but there's just one other that I couldn't deny giving the top spot to. Number 2, Honeybee Hive. Now we're getting into the really good stuff. Honey Queen kinda sorta gets her own battle map, which is aesthetically and thematically pleasing. Tons of rooms to traverse through and hide in, a general air of franticness thanks to the music, bees, and honey traps. It's got it all. Basically the new Twilight House, except bee themed. Sounds like a banger to me. Up next is Battle Course 3. Are you detecting a pattern here? This one is far better than its Wii counterpart because the L's in each corner are far less intrusive. I like how open it is, but how there are also places to hide. That's neat. Number 2, Delfino Pier. Avoiding the rising water that instantly kills you and getting to explore a whole new area halfway through before it gets flooded. Such great mechanics. Because of underwater driving, this course wouldn't be the same if it was brought back nowadays, but for the time, it was a super neat idea and extremely fun to battle on.
I'm sorry, Teddy. Only people have human rights.
I feel like this is a really controversial placement, but
I don't care.
every time I hear that harmonica solo, my brain is just flooded with serotonin. There are very few things that can make me as happy as Persona 4 Golden's intro does. When I see the cast doing their little dances, it makes me want to get up and dance with them. The colors and graphics surrounding them are so fitting and so visually satisfying that it's insane. The bodies hanging on wires are so striking. The Velvet Room bit blends perfectly with the music, and the gorgeous rainbow kaleidoscope ski trip glasses finale is just so gorgeous. I understand that this isn't the most thematically rich intro the series has ever had, but it cranks the pleasing aesthetics up to 15. How can you hate Yosuke's trash can dance? It's literally impossible. Oh, and the song is a jam. This is honestly one of my favorite intros in all of gaming, and every time I watch it, it makes me want to play the 90-hour game all over again. And yet, there's still one more intro that's even better.
This one's my favorite. Without question, absolute favorite. I love everything Williams did, down to the Ewoks. Okay, maybe not the Ewoks, but really, I could just gush for hours about how much I love this score. So like, first off, we have that moment between Luke and Leia, and we get Luke and Leia's theme.
Yes, it's you, Leia.
Which, when you look at the music, you can argue that Luke and Leia's theme is a combination of Luke's theme, or the main theme, and Leia's theme from the first film. And okay, I lied. I actually think my favorite moment in Star Wars is actually the final confrontation between Luke and Vader. I love that Williams alternates between the Emperor's theme and Obi-Wan's theme to represent the conflict between the light side and the dark side of the Force.
I will not fight you, Father.
But wait, hang on, I lied. Okay, my actual favorite moment of Star Wars is Vader's redemption. If you listen closely, you get this delicate orchestration of the Imperial March. You get some violins, some harp. It's this beautiful, touching moment. Which, as a composer, feels like Williams has done the impossible. In only changing the instrumentation, he's somehow taken one of the most ominous, oppressive pieces of music that we almost unilaterally associate with villainy and evil, and he somehow managed to make it fit in for a father and son reuniting. It's amazing. I can just keep going on, but I have to stop at some point.
Return of the Jedi score is honestly pretty underrated in the grand scheme of things. I personally think that it contains some of the most haunting, exhilarating, powerful tracks in the saga. With that said, they're all mainly crammed into the last third, and while the rest of the score is good, there's not a whole lot in those first 2/3 I consider to be phenomenal. But there is some stuff, and here it is. The Sail Barge Assault is one of the most exciting pieces of music in the entire series. That opening offers such incredible build up to the upcoming action, and the finale is insanely triumphant. I should also mention that the Rancor battle has some excellent boss music. I also really enjoy a lot of the music on Endor, from the soothing ending of the levitation scene to the mystical reworking of classic Star Wars themes as 3PO tells the Ewoks stories of their past adventures, to, of course, that gorgeous Luke and Leia scene. And as soon as Luke enters the second Death Star to confront the Emperor, every single piece of music from that moment on is phenomenal. The Emperor's theme is a masterclass in eeriness. It perfectly captures the essence of this demon and makes you feel like you're in hell. The It's a Trap sequence is everything. Amazing, urgent, intense, exciting, sinister, all at once. I love that flourish of the classic main theme when they lock S-foils in attack positions, before the urgency kicks in again. And it all culminates with this iconic line.
It's a trap!
Oh my God, I love this movie. The moment where Luke attacks Vader is so emotionally rich, with the eerie, wobbly chanting giving me chills every time. It's unlike anything else I've heard in Star Wars, which is perfect because it underscores the darkest, most twisted moment for our hero. And the way it transitions into the Emperor's theme is so incredible. That same theme, of course, grows in intensity when the Emperor electrocutes Luke, which makes the moment all the more shocking. All of my puns are intended, don't even ask. It is darkness incarnate, complete with magnificent chanting and stunning intensity. And Vader's heroic sacrifice is a tremendous, triumphant musical moment if I've ever seen one. And the escape from the second Death Star comes standard with some awesome, action-y sound. And while I don't like most special edition changes, I actually prefer the new Celebration music over Yub Nub. Yub Nub is quirky and cute, but the special edition version is a gorgeous finale and send-off for this story. Return of the Jedi score is absolutely awe-inspiring, offering some of the most emotionally resonant tracks in the entire series and making for one phenomenal symphonic ride. And yet, there's still one more movie to go.
Playtime's over.
This is one of the hardest lines in the whole game. You could pick one of these silly Nintendo mascot characters and have a fun playtime with them, but if you pick this feral wolf, he lets you know under no uncertain terms that playtime's over. That's raw as shit, and the delivery absolutely sells it. It's just dripping with malice and intensity. Like I said, it could have been number 1. But ultimately, I gotta give it to number 2, Woohoo Town. I love Woohoo Island so much, and I'm so glad it at least got represented in this game through the battle map. It looks so glorious in HD, and the sheer abundance of routes through this town suit basically every mode to a T. My friends and I invented a special game on the newly opened up basketball court, where two of us grab a feather, drive to opposite sides of the court, and basically have a jousting match where we both try and use our feather to steal each other's balloons. It's really fun. I would highly recommend it. Next is Skyscraper. It's not as easy to fall off here as I remember, and when you do, it's really funny seeing how far down you go. Essentially, you're just left with a good fun course with a ton of sections to weave in and out of, and it makes for a great time. But literally, none of these matter compared to the single best battle course in the series. Just kind of transcendently majestic in a way words could not possibly hope to express. I honestly think both the original N64 version and the 8 remix have their own unique merits. So even though I do slightly prefer the 8 version, I want it to be known that this ranking represents both of them. A heavenly journey of a music track. I love how similar parts of the beat feel to a train chugging along. Very fitting considering the actual train on this course. The trumpets are divine, so are all the other instruments honestly. Oh man, it's Rainbow Road. I'll miss you again, Uncle. Outstanding in every sense of the word. Don't you just love it when you watch a critically acclaimed and iconic movie for the first time, and then it just completely lives up to the hype you've been hearing about it for years? Memento is everything I hoped it would be and more. All I knew about it was the fact that the scenes play in reverse order. Ooh, that Christopher Nolan, he's such a scamp when it comes to playing with time. On paper, it seems like this would remove suspense from the story, since you see its outcome in the very first scene. Spoilers for the first 5 minutes of Memento, he shoots the guy. We know where everything's headed, and yet, you can't help but wonder how we got here. And you can't help but suspect there's something darker underneath the surface here. The movie delivers pieces of its story with no indication of what leads to each piece happening. A brilliant reflection of the protagonist's short-term memory loss. It also makes for a story that engaged me the whole way through, since every single scene made me ask, what happened before this? I gotta know! Combining the non-chronological events with the chronological story Leonard tells is an excellent touch too. It provides necessary breaks from the reverse plotline, making each of those segments sink in for a bit. And it's also compelling in its own right. I didn't necessarily know how it tied into everything else going on, but then it all came together in one of the most truly insane reveals I've seen in some time. I won't dare spoil it if, like me, you haven't seen this film yet and don't know much about it. It's just so strong, so consistently gripping the entire time, even before the mind-blowing ending ties everything together. I really love the performances of Guy Pearce and Guy from The Sopranos. The editing is really strong. You know me, I'm a sucker for good editing. And aside from the sheer visceral thrill of piecing the story together, I found Leonard's inability to cope with his affliction so fascinating and tragic. His refusal to do anything else with his new life is just so f***ed up. Man, it is so hard to talk about this movie without spoiling anything, but if you've seen it, I think you know what I mean. Bottom line is, I'm just in awe of it. Its concept, its tone, its themes, everything just comes together to make the exceptional sophomore effort that put Christopher Nolan on the map. Watch it, it's peak.
Water.
The Last Jedi is our runner-up for having the most Octo out of the entire sequel trilogy. And Octo is easily one of the most visually gorgeous planets in all of Star Wars, both in terms of its greenery and in terms of its amazing looking water. Oh man, look at it up against the rocks of the coast. Check out that shot of the submerged X-Wing. Holy shit! This is amazing looking water if I've ever seen it. Just so many gorgeous visuals to be found in this endless expanse of ocean. Luke even pole vaults over it at one point and catches a giant fish. Aw man, fishing has never looked more visually appealing in any movie. Well, probably it has in some movie I've never seen before, but regardless, this is some good looking fishing, with some good looking water attached. Oh, and don't even get me started on Rey's first training session, where she visualizes water in all its aspects, not just the dogmatic narrow view of it looking amazing. I mean, to be fair, it does look amazing in all these shots, but what I mean is, it's not explicitly positive in all of them. It represents violence in a stunning yet sad shot. But other shots in this sequence depict it as calm and peace. Water can truly represent a lot of things, but the one consistent thing about it in this movie is that it always looks incredible. And then of course there's the avant-garde spraying of water that concludes this scene. Boy oh boy does it look cool. We even get more ominous yet inviting and visually stimulating water when Rey goes into the creepy hole. And who could forget how striking and powerful it looks during Rey and Luke's duel. This movie might have the most purposeful use of amazing looking water in the entire Star Wars saga. You can tell Rian Johnson really has a great understanding of water as a concept, which almost makes up for him not understanding Finn's character at all, among other terrible things in this movie. Dude, it is so fun being a Last Jedi centrist. It's like I'm living a double life or something. Okay, back to the water. It looks incredible in this movie, but there's one other Star Wars film where it looks even more amazing.
For half the summer, I thought your name was Maple, like the syrup. No one corrected me.
I'm gonna be honest, I hated Maple Treeway as a kid because this one turn on the tree trunk was really hard and I could never do it. That means the course is bad. Then I grew up and I learned how to actually play Mario Kart and realized, whoa, the course is good. As someone who firmly believes that fall is the best and prettiest season of all time, I gotta give this course props for being one of the most aesthetically gorgeous tracks in Mario Kart history. Such a nice, cozy theme coupled with incredibly strong track design and music make for an instant classic. I love the sharp turns, dodging the wigglers, finding items hidden in piles of leaves, pulling off this really cool shortcut right at the start, and bouncing on this net that tragically never made a return after gliders became the hip new thing. There's just so much to discover and enjoy with this one. It's one of the most alive feeling Mario Kart courses there is. Easily one of my favorites in the whole series. But it just barely comes short of the one, the only, the all-time GOAT. I just realized that GOAT stands for greatest of all time, so I didn't need to say all-time before GOAT, because now I just said all-time greatest of all time. But you know what? That's fine, because I just really need to emphasize how amazing this course is. Let's talk about it right now. Number 2, Pipe Plaza. Oh look, they brought back the best battle course from Double Dash. Awesome. It's just as excellent and hectically fun as it was there. Pretty much the only fully intact remake of something from Double Dash in this entire game. Bowser's Galaxy Reactor, the fate of the universe. The most epic moment in any Mario game to date. I still get chills when Mario just walks forward at the beginning of the level instead of being launched there as the dramatic score kicks in. It's like, damn. This is serious business. The level is a Frankenstein's monster of mismatched themes and ideas that Bowser pieced together, and it's a fitting and intense gauntlet of challenges. It all culminates with the most dramatic showdown with Bowser ever conceived, featuring unique new phases to the fight and one hell of an incredible score. A final level for the ages.
Don't seem to remember ever owning a drawing.
Man, so many things are lining up just like they did in the 3PO video. Because once again, we find R2-D2 in his most plot-relevant role by far, A New Hope, just barely missing the top spot. I preferred his part in one other movie by just a smidge. But with that said, yeah, it's hard to argue against the significance of R2's role in this movie when he pretty much is the MacGuffin. Or at least, he has the MacGuffin inside of him. We gotta get these Death Star plans to the Rebellion. And who does Princess Leia entrust with the most important mission in galactic history? Our boy. The droid, the myth, the legend himself. Granted, she didn't really have a ton of options in order to get the plans away, but I think this still speaks to an insane level of trust and value she places in R2. I mean, she could have handed the plans to 3PO, but I think she knew better. 3PO was kind of just along for the ride, accompanying the true hero of this story. A stalwart, legendary war veteran who does not sway from his vital mission of getting the Death Star plans to Obi-Wan Kenobi. It's incredible how nothing stops him. Oh, he gets kidnapped by Jawas and sold to this random farm boy? Yeah, he's just gonna trick this guy into removing his restraining bolt and then he's gonna make a break for it. F you. He escapes servitude by outsmarting his new master and braves the Junlin Wastes all by himself. What a king. And Luke isn't even mad about it. He's just kind of in awe, saying the line that I think perfectly summarizes the character of R2-D2 and his appeal. loyal.
But I've never seen such devotion in a droid before.
That just says it all, doesn't it? R2 is truly a special breed. A droid with one of the most bold and distinct personalities out of any Star Wars character. He never says a word we can understand, but it's abundantly clear how he is the epitome of bravery and loyalty in this series. I've loved him all my life, and my admiration for him has never ceased. He's just the best. Now that he's done essentially being the main character like he was in the first 17 minutes or so, R2 slides into his delightful supporting role with grace and gusto. We have our fun little moment where R2 beats Chewie's ass at holochess and is advised to let the Wookiee win. We get the first of so many moments where R2 saves all of our heroes' lives when he turns off the trash compactor. And of course, we have him bravely accompanying Luke during the final Death Star battle, getting shot down by his old friend in the process. It really raises the stakes because not only have all of Luke's other fellow rebels bit the dust, but Vader even landed a hit on his ship and knocked out his trusty companion. Even after the catharsis of the Death Star's destruction, we're briefly worried about R2's well-being until that triumphant pan down to him alive and well in the medal ceremony. It's a real and R2-D2 who did not die moment. And it really sweetens an already super sweet ending. They really came out swinging with R2's introduction to the world, with this movie showcasing so many of his best attributes and most iconic moments. He remains relevant throughout its entire runtime, and perhaps best of all, this movie is also the origin of the funny scene where he gets zapped by the Jawas and he falls down. Literally, what could be better than that? Oh, only one other thing. So, my number 2 favorite TV show of 2023 is a last-minute addition because I heard it was really good. So I figured, sure, I'll squeeze it in. And I'm so glad I did, because Blue Eye Samurai is, no joke, one of the best new shows I've seen in years. Genuinely, I think this is the best new Netflix original since BoJack Horseman. The first season is a 10 out of 10 to me. I'm just in awe of how good it is. It's got some of the most visceral feeling action I've seen in a while. There are so many tense and shocking scenes that completely took me off guard. It's refreshingly adult, like very much so. They show penis and boobs and sex and stuff, in addition to all the bloody violence and swearing. And yet, all of it feels appropriate. It's never gratuitous. I'd say the first episode I watched and thought, yeah, that was pretty decent. You know, it wasn't anything crazy. Parts of it were a little cliche, but it's got a lot of potential. And then the more I watched, the more it started to subvert almost everything I expected based on that first episode. Like the dynamics of the characters and elements of the main character's backstory. A lot of it was stuff I didn't see coming, and often stuff I've never really seen before in anything. The main character is this woman who's half white, half Japanese, and in this period of Japan, that's frowned upon and she's seen as a demon. And she dedicates herself to this revenge quest to go find and kill the 4 white men secretly living in Japan, since one of them is her father. So basically, it's Mamma Mia, but with samurai murder. And it's awesome. I pretty much liked every character in this. Even the obvious comic relief one, who seemed a bit off-putting and out of place at first, but he quickly proved to be endearing and useful as the season went on. I like this very proactive princess and her bonds with the caretaker who raised her. You know, obviously her story is a bit cliche. She's a princess who doesn't want to be one, you know, sure. But I think they made her a lot more proactive and interesting than most characters with this trope. Her fiance got embarrassed in a fight by the main character, so he tracks her down and pretty much helps her on her quest, because once it's done, he wants to fight her to the death. Like, that's a fun idea. There's obviously a lot to be said about the role that women have to play in this society, and it's all done very well. It doesn't feel ham-fisted or anything. I think the villain of this season and the dynamic he has with his right-hand man is pretty interesting. In general, I think the pacing is perfect, the story is consistently engaging, the characters are compelling, the action is nuts. Like I said, aside from that first episode being a little weaker than the others, the only real complaint I can think of is that sometimes they use licensed music and it just doesn't fit. But that's not really a common thing. It very rarely happens. But when it does, it's like, nah, please don't. I guess I'd also say I think the season peaks quality quality-wise with episode 6 out of 8. Not to say the last 2 episodes aren't amazing, they definitely are, but episode 6 is just on another level. So I watched it thinking, how the hell are they gonna top this one? And then they kinda didn't. Not a huge deal, the season just doesn't end with its strongest episode, but it still ends in a fantastic way. Yeah, not much else to say. I was just kind of floored by this show, and I'm begging you guys to check it out. I cannot have Netflix cancel this one before it finishes its story. Season 2 has already been greenlit, but to guarantee its success, this show needs all the eyes it can get watching it. So please do yourself a favor and check out Blue Eye Samurai. It's one of the best things I've seen all year, and it has to be seen to be believed.
Women.
I remember when it was first confirmed that Reload wouldn't be including the FemC route. I was pretty bummed, but I also understood that it would be a lot more work to incorporate her into something that wasn't a visual novel. Even so, I expressed the hope on Twitter that even without playable FemC, maybe, just maybe they could incorporate her unique social links into Reload. Particularly Sayori's, because I wanted so many more people to experience it. But someone in the comments brought up a good point that really stuck with me. They didn't really want Sayori to be a social link for the male protagonist, because her story just hits harder from the perspective of the FemC. I think I completely get what they mean in hindsight. It's so essential that you view it from the perspective of a female bond of friendship. And it wouldn't work nearly as well if you were the male protag and, God forbid, she was romanceable. Sayori is a bit of an outcast, older than all her peers since she took some gap years, and unable to really connect with any of them as a result. She also doesn't really get the sort of romance her peers experience, is rather naive, and is a bit of a pushover who will do anything anyone asks of her. But damn it, she's just unbelievably sweet. The more you bond with her and discover you're pretty much the only real friend she has here, the more you want to protect her from those petty assholes she goes to school with. The link does a great job of anchoring you with a pretty low-stakes problem. She let another student borrow her notes, and then they lost them, which she's too mellow and polite to do anything about. Then from there, they ramp up the issues gradually. She says yes to a random boy's invitation for karaoke, and then his girlfriend gets mad at her for it and slaps her. And then these horrible false rumors about her sexual promiscuity make her an outcast at the school. And that's only after she's done being suspended for it. This storyline lays so much awful shit on this innocent, sweet girl. But it's at least heartwarming to get so many opportunities to stick up for her. Not only is the story compelling and tragic, but the individual relationship you form with Sayori just feels so well developed and real. I think it helps that FemC is so much more proactive in this storyline compared to how the protagonists usually act. I feel like the writing style for the social links usually don't give the protagonists too much agency, because the writers don't want them to make any drastic choices that some players at home might not make. But f that, man. Sayori is a social pariah and FemC needs to do something about it. So she suggests going on the intercom to explain to everyone that all these rumors are lies. This happens in rank 9, obviously my favorite of the link, and one of my favorites in general. I especially love how the female teachers sorta take your side in this and get that face of Coda off your back. I don't know, it's not really my place to say, but so much of this link comes across as female solidarity coming together to solve a distinctly female problem. Girls in high school are generally much more prone to be the victim of awful, reputation-ruining rumors than guys are, especially where promiscuity is involved. I think that's why you helping Sayori through this awful situation hits so hard, especially for female players. By the end of it, I was genuinely moved and upset to see her go. But I was happy that she had a desire to be more proactive and stick up for herself at her new school. It gave me a ton of hope that things would work out better for her in the future. Oh, and that one part where she swears for the first time just to see what it feels like. Oh my god, what a wonderful, endearing girl. Honestly, it's almost worth playing the FemC route just for this social link alone. It's absolutely fantastic, and I want as many people as possible to experience it. This is it, Chief. The peak of computer animation and superhero movies. This is my favorite Pixar movie, and I don't think it's hard to see why. It has one of the smartest scripts I've ever seen in any movie, period. Just like Ratatouille, this is a movie made specifically for adults, with the added bonus of being enjoyable for kids. There is not a second of this movie that feels like it's talking down to its audience. Every scene is conveyed with a striking sense of realism, despite the fantastical superpowers being displayed. Every emotional beat and interaction works. Bob and Helen's struggling marriage is portrayed so realistically, almost uncomfortably so at certain times. There's just so many lines of dialogue in this movie that I want to print out and frame somewhere. I love Edna's rant about capes and how it comes back in the ending. Speaking of which, Syndrome is such a fantastic villain in every way. Campy, hilarious, and kinda pathetic, yet legitimately intimidating at the same time. It's only fitting he gets this movie's most iconic line.
And when everyone's super, no one will be.
I also love how this movie is one of Pixar's most emotional, and it doesn't feel like it's even trying to be. There's no scene like the opening of Up or Finding Nemo, or the end of Toy Story 3 where they try to tug at your heartstrings. You're just taken in by the rich themes and incredibly strong relationships between the family members. It feels effortless, which, again, is the magic of Brad Bird's writing. Dude, I don't even know what else to say. It's just flawless. I'm very passionate about the other two movies it won the Oscar against, in very different ways. But come on. It's The Incredibles. Every time I watch this movie, it just gets better and better. And I have no qualms calling it my favorite animated movie ever made. Wait, why is it not number 1?
Do I look like I need your power?
You know how when I ranked all the Pixar movies, I talked about how I almost made it through the entire marathon without crying once, but then Coco was the only one that got me? Well, the same thing happens with this video. And the one movie that made me cry? Wreck-It Ralph somehow. I'm genuinely really shocked, but man, I just forgot about how good that scene is where he wrecks the cart. Like, this is one of the best executions of the main character splitting up trope I've ever seen. You understand Ralph's motivation perfectly and how he thinks there's no other way to save Vanellope, but it crushes your heart so much because their friendship means so much to you at this point. And from Vanellope's perspective, this is such a gigantic betrayal. He's doing the same thing the Mean Girls did earlier in the movie, and she never expected him to act this way. And King Candy, ooh, that little bitch. You understand why Ralph believes him even if you don't, but also, damn, that slippery little dickwad. He caused all this emotional trauma. Oh my god. This is a great movie. I forgot how much I enjoy it, and I fully went into this video expecting to rank it lower than Tangled, but I think it just barely edges it out actually. Again, I'm shocked. It has problems like some annoying immature jokes and a couple cliche elements, but honestly, there's just very little that I really dislike about this movie. It presents such a vivid, expressive world that stands toe-to-toe with something like Toy Story, in terms of capturing your imagination and getting your mind racing, thinking about all the cool ways video game characters can interact. This movie is so good at doling out information as to how the world works in an efficient manner. There's a lot it needs to explain, but it never feels bogged down by exposition. It all flows seamlessly. The main characters are all charming and likable, and the relationships that grow between them are equally endearing. King Candy was the last time Disney ever had fun with a non-crustacean villain, and he's so delightful while also being legitimately menacing. Perhaps the movie's greatest feat is how seamlessly it brings all these video game characters and universes together without ever feeling like the corporate IP jerk-off fests that would plague cinema in the coming years. All these cameos and references are so tasteful and natural. Nothing about this aspect of the movie is cringeworthy or dated, which is honestly miraculous. The fact that Bowser and Sonic and Pac-Man have appeared in the Walt Disney Animation Studios canon and it just works makes me so happy. This is just such an easy film to like. It's got great characters, a great concept, beautiful animation that still holds up nearly 10 years later, and some deceptively powerful moments. Gotta give it up for the one and only Wreck-It Ralph film. I can't believe they stole this song from Sans Undertale. The first truly amazing song in the show. You'll find it in the dictionary if you look up the term absolute fire. It goes so well with Garnet's battle against Jasper and stands as the perfect representation of the true power of fusion. It's our first introduction to the real Garnet, and it leaves one hell of an amazing first impression.
It's me, Uncle Waluigi!
Even without the half-pipe glow-up it received in Wii, Waluigi Stadium remains one of the most exhilaratingly fun courses there is. It nails the killer extreme sports atmosphere that Wario Coliseum was kinda lacking, with creative obstacles, tons of jumps, and an absolutely electric feeling of satisfaction as you nail each turn and leave your rivals in the dust. Plus, even though this has no effect on my ranking, I think it's pretty cool how this was the only course in the game to have an ultra shortcut for over a decade. It kind of unintentionally fits in with Waluigi's wacky cheater nature. Overall, it's wild how the iteration of this course that's clearly inferior to its Wii counterpart, as well as being inferior to the amazing 8 Deluxe version that totally didn't come out as I was editing this, still manages to be one of the absolute best courses in Double Dash. But there's one more that's even better.
Hey, you're that ninja.
I'm actually kind of speechless. Ninja Hideaway is one of the greatest courses I've ever played in a racing game. It's so far above most of the other tracks in Mario Kart for me that it's kind of unreal. This is a course that thrives off of its alternate pathways, ensuring that no two paths are entirely alike. It's a Mario Kart course with honest-to-God platforming in it. The absolute thrill of boosting off of the bamboo and gaining enough height to make it to those 3 pillars and start the final stretch of the lap from an elevated position is just unreal. Tricking off the bumps in the roof is a fantastic addition, as is the optional glider ramp right before the finish line that you can use to reach an alternate path you couldn't access on the first lap. Until, of course, it converges with the place these stairs led you to, where you can drive atop these platforms and hopefully time it so you can boost onto the higher ledge. But if you do that, you'll miss out on this unique hidden shortcut, a perfect reflection of the ninja theme, as if the rest of the course's aesthetics didn't already nail it. There's just so much course in this course, to the point where I never feel like I see it all in a single race. I just can't believe this is real. Like, this was our first impression of how ambitious and incredible a non-city tour course could be. And yet, none of the other brand new tour tracks quite topped it. Not that I really expected them to. I am hoping and praying that this and Accelerated Toilet is the standard for what we can expect from the next full Mario Kart game. Tracks that are ambitious as all hell, with a plethora of extensive, optional alternate routes, and a perfect encapsulation of their creative theme. The only issues I can really muster for Ninja Hideaway is that having random propellers floating in midair to boost you looks a little bit silly. And graphically, the course could look a little nicer, especially the background details. This is very much a Wave 1 course, and you can tell. But other than that, this is one of those courses that just makes me feel alive whenever I play it. It's incredibly exciting, and I've had a blast on it every single time. Except for the first couple races where it was pretty tricky to get the hang of. I was a little mixed on it at the beginning. Then I got good, and this is where it's ranked now. Crazy how that works. Return of the Jedi's Crawl is top-notch, perfectly following up on Empire's events while also doing what Rise of Skywalker utterly failed at, serving as a great opening to what was previously the final chapter of the story. This is up there with Revenge of the Sith as being one of the most adventure-serially opening crawls in the saga, letting us know about the encroaching danger in a rather tongue-in-cheek way that doesn't go too far into silliness. Before we get to that though, the first paragraph is all business, letting us know that Luke has returned to Tatooine in order to rescue Han from the clutches of the vile gangster Jabba the Hutt. Fun fact, this is the only crawl in the entire series that mentions Han. I just thought that was interesting. Anyway, yeah, solid first paragraph that draws a straight line out from Empire's ending and lets us know what our main hero is up to at this moment in time. But the second paragraph is where things really get going. Kicking off with the delightfully pulpy, "Little does Luke know," which I adore. It's such a fun way to express the fact that Luke isn't aware about Death Star 2's secret construction. I love it. This is also the perfect information to reveal in a crawl in order to really get the audience's blood pumping and fill them with a sense of dread. They draw you in with the all-caps Galactic Empire and make you think, oh no, what could be worse than the stuff the Empire put the rebels through last time? And then you see what it is and it's like, aw shit, here we go again. It's incredibly ominous ominous and a great reveal that immediately gets shown off in the very first scene in the movie. You don't have that disconnect where you have to find out Palpatine was kidnapped off screen, or that the dead spoke off screen, without ever getting to see those events for yourself. Here, they tell you Death Star 2 exists, and then you immediately get to witness it visually. The crawl makes sure you don't miss out on seeing anything for yourself, which is a great way to do it. And now we get to the final paragraph. My personal favorite of this crawl, and my favorite out of all the final paragraphs in all the crawls. When completed, this ultimate weapon will spell certain doom for the small band of rebels, struggling to restore freedom to the galaxy. Now that's an amazing way to lead into the ending of a series. It just has such a sense of finality to it, while also getting you excited to see your favorite group of scrappy underdogs face off against the ultimate weapon of certain doom. It's language like this that perfectly straddles the line between cheesy and exciting, and it sends the hype levels for the final battle you're about to witness through the roof. The stakes are so perfectly laid out, and oh man, I could gush about this all day. The last awesome touch I want to mention with this final paragraph is how it calls back to A New Hope's opening crawl, which ended by discussing the stolen plans that could restore freedom to the galaxy. An idealistic, hopeful concept. But after 2 movies of hardship and turmoil, especially in the last film, the crawl now expresses that the small band of rebels are struggling to restore freedom to the galaxy. That is one of the coolest and most dramatically potent instances of Star Wars being like poetry, sort of. It rhymes. And no one ever talks about it. It's absolutely genius to call back to the first crawl for the finale, just with the added dramatic weight that comes from mentioning that it do be a struggle, which is especially powerful after the events of Empire Strikes Back. This crawl is nothing short of amazing. A perfect lead-in to the finale of the trilogy, and what was previously the finale of all of Star Wars. I honestly don't have any problems with it. It's just an immensely satisfying way to start closing the book on the saga. But ultimately, there was one that it just couldn't top.
Today is a gift. That is why it is called a present.
Everyone knows how good the Ribbon Road Glow-Up in Mario Kart 8 is. But did you know that the original version of the course is also one of the prettiest and most creative courses in that game? It's true! There really is this air of majesty to the presents that are present in the background and as obstacles on the course. And those, on top of the amazingly appealing track itself, make for a course that just oozes charm at every turn. And the turns themselves are fun too. It's just an immensely enjoyable course that puts me in a good mood every time I'm racing on it. And there's barely anything wrong with it. It's just satisfying from start to finish. One of the greatest tracks to come out of this game by far. There's only one course that it falls just short of. The only real S-tier course in this game, in my opinion. That, of course, being...
It's from Bowser!
Is it just me? Or is the N64 Bowser's Castle low-key one of the best ones in the whole series? It has a lot of the oppressive and ominous atmosphere that something like Banshee Boardwalk was missing. Complete with haunting music, crispy-looking lava, creepy as shit, ominous laughing thwomps, and huge portraits of Bowser everywhere. Actually, those look kind of silly, never mind. The small garden area is also an interesting juxtaposition to the rest of this formidable fortress, and its confusing nature can be a bit unsettling in its own right. I think aesthetically, this is the most unique Bowser's Castle in the whole series, and it captures a sense of creepiness that no other one does. But on top of that, it's just amazing to drive on too, making all these turns as you dodge the thwomps that move in unique patterns compared to any other course, avoiding the numerous opportunities to fall into the lava and perish, and in general dealing with a course that's tricky but not frustrating or jank. It's the perfect level of difficulty for this game, and it suits the theme beautifully. And of course, the jailed thwomp, who I now know is named Marty. May he one day be free. We're all rooting for you, buddy. Overall, yeah, I gotta give this course some credit. There's no other track in the game, nor any other Bowser's Castle in the series quite like it. It's fun, it's spooky, it's a really great time. Outdone only by one other.
Why? How? I don't know what this song is, but it's so good. I've loved it for over a decade now. It's just so hilarious and out of nowhere, and yeah, basically it has the same energy as Shiny. There is no reason for this song to exist, let alone slap this hard. They went this hard on Squirrels in My Pants. What a masterpiece. What else is there to say, man? It's Squirrels in My Pants.
Every day's great and you're tuned
Oh my god, no way! It's the social link with a lot of overlap with Dojima! That's crazy! Nanako came really close to being my #1 favorite Persona 4 social link. Like, it was one of the tightest races I've ever had in a ranking video. But in the end, I decided this one was ever so slightly lesser because it benefits a lot from being played alongside Dojima's Link. They really feel like two halves of the same story, whereas the #1 P4 pick stands on its own. But I don't want that to diminish just how powerful and devastating this Link is. If I had to pick the most important character in the MC's story for each of these games, the person that the protagonist forms the most compelling and essential bond with in every bit of required story the game has, 3's is pretty unambiguously Aigis, with Ryoji and Yukari not being too far behind. And with 5, I really don't think you can argue that it's anyone but Akechi. These are all characters who know what's up with this whole Persona thing, and your connection with them stretches across both halves of the gameplay. With Persona 4, however, I'd argue that the most meaningful relationship Yu Narukami forms throughout the main story is with Nanako. Not only do many late-game events revolve around her, but she's always around day after day, becoming a fixture in your life who you care deeply about protecting. It's a pretty impressive feat for a character who never learns about any of this Persona or TV world stuff. Someone who mostly serves as your anchor to everyday life in the real world. And not only is her implementation in the main story great, but her social link is an absolutely devastating and surprisingly heavy experience. She laments how busy her father always is, and eventually comes to the conclusion that he doesn't love her or see her as his real daughter. She also expresses concern at how he never talks about her mom, or even has any photos of her up. No doubt a grieving process of his that remains completely foreign to her. It's so hard for her to understand what's going on in his head. I mean, how else do you expect a 6-year-old to react to a constantly absent dad and a dead mom? Everything comes to a head in my personal favorite, Rank 7, where Nanako reaches her breaking point and runs away. After you and your friends go searching for her, you eventually find her at the riverbank and convince her that her dad does care about her. A moment that speaks volumes to the bond you formed with her, because even Dojima concedes that you'll have an easier time talking to her than he will. It's just a heartbreaking story of a lost, lonely girl who needs someone in her life to look after her. Much like Dojima's Link, it's simple yet extremely effective, with both links working in tandem to create such a compelling portrait of a father and daughter who are unable to heal their emotional wounds and connect with each other until your gentle, guiding hand comes into their life. Simply phenomenal stuff. Even if I do think there's one link in Persona 4 that remains superior.
Hello, LGBTQ community.
Goro Akechi is a character of extremes. He acts unbearably polite for a majority of the game, only to reveal his insanely twisted, murderous tendencies. Half the fanbase adores him, the other half hates his guts. And, in perhaps the only development that made sense for this ranking, he is the subject of my second least favorite social link in all of Persona 5, and also my second favorite. Actually, f*** it, this is my favorite social link in the game. It's one of those situations where I think there's just one that's objectively better. But, putting aside all the personal bias that comes from my obsession with this character, I just think the new link they gave Akechi that's exclusive to Royal is the single most interesting depiction of a character's inner workings and mental state that the Persona social links have ever attempted. Furthermore, this is the most clear-cut and compelling relationship to ever form between the main character and one of their confidants in the series. Other social links rank a bit higher for me because they tell slightly better stories, but solely from a character standpoint, there is nothing in the series quite like this one. I'd honestly call it the single biggest improvement Royal brought to the table over the original Persona 5. Just to recap, making Akechi an automatic social link in the original was an awful decision that caused a lot of players to resent his character for being forced upon them. Immediately, this is rectified by putting the choice to spend time with Akechi and rank up your bond with him in your hands. It's pretty obvious why this is a vast improvement. And when comparing the two, I've seen a lot of people kind of just stop there when determining why this is a better social link than his original one. I mean, you could stop there if that's your thesis, but I better go into more detail to explain why this is one of my favorite social links of all time. Simply put, there are two things tying this link together. The competition you naturally experience as rivals, and the homoerotic tension in the air. I think this is the most romance-coded social link in the series. Even more so than the ones where you actually get to date the girls. The romance is kind of an afterthought in those ones if you think about it. There's a couple cute ooh-woo moments leading up to the big confession scene, but mainly it's a story about them experiencing personal growth with your help. But with Akechi? I'm sorry, this could not be more intimate. It's always one-on-one, and you're not helping him overcome some sort of hardship in his life or anything. You are just going on dates with this man. The cafe scene where you give him your glasses and scrunch up his hair. The jazz club, a special place to him that he outright says he's never taken anyone else before. You two bathe together, which, you know, isn't all that uncommon in Japanese bathhouses. But this, of all times, is when he chooses to be emotionally vulnerable to you and tell you about his mother. When he's naked? He's stripped bare, both literally and figuratively, telling someone this intensely personal secret for the first time ever. The amount of first things he does with or confesses to Joker, which he's never done with anyone else before, is staggering. There's this level of intimacy between the two of you that simply feels unheard of for this character. It's like his heart is aching, desperately yearning for you to get to know the real him. The song No More What Ifs is commonly considered to be Akechi's version of Beneath the Mask, with the lyrics applying to him incredibly well. And where do you first hear it? In the jazz club, when he takes you there. It could not be clearer that he's stifling his true self and his true feelings. This brings us to the second major theme of this link: competition. When he's not taking you to intimate locations, he's dueling you in something. Pool, a gun game at the arcade, hell, even the bathhouse scene doubles as a contest for who can stand the heat longest. These also perfectly tie into his true feelings about you. He can't stand that you're better than him, that you've adjusted to your unfortunate circumstances in a more positive way than he ever could. And you continue to get the drop on him in so many other ways, even mentally. What I love about the rank 2 scene is that you immediately pick up on the fact that he's not using his dominant hand, something he constantly commends you for noticing. It's pretty good foreshadowing for the fact that you also immediately saw through his ruse because of delicious pancakes. Which, as an aside, I can't believe Akechi reveals he doesn't even like sweets that much during this social link. It's like he just made that pancake comment to fit in with kids his age. SMH, I thought he was the funny pancake man. What a fascinating tragedy that it just seems to be another element of his facade. This link really gives weight to that one climactic line where he says he was extremely particular about his life, grades, and public image, because we actually get to see examples of that now. It shows and then tells, rather than just telling. Anyway, the competitive nature and the intimacy between the two of you both come to a head during what I personally believe to be the single greatest rank up in all of Persona. Akechi's rank 8 is simply unbelievable. It gives me chills just thinking about it. Also, I just realized his rank 8 in vanilla is like the worst social link rank up in the entire series. Yeah, kinda ties into what I said about him being a character of extremes, huh? Anyway, back to Peak. Throughout this entire royal social link, knowing what I knew about Akechi's true intentions, I kept wondering what the end goal of him spending time with us and revealing all this personal information about himself was. Did this really further any of his plans to kill Joker and take down the Phantom Thieves? No. It was all because of his personal fixation on Joker. He couldn't resist both proving himself better than Joker and proving himself to Joker. And so, he arranges a one-on-one duel in Mementos between the two of you. It's completely unexpected, and yet it was foreshadowed significantly over the course of the previous ranks. It's climactic, exciting, and ominous all at once. Really feeling like a relative calm before the storm if you know what's coming between the two of them. And after it ends and you commend each other for your skills and get that rank up, Akechi drops the bombshell.
I'm going to be entirely honest with you. I hate you.
This took me by complete surprise when I first played Royal, even though I fully knew of Akechi's true intentions. Just the sheer gall and forwardness to say this now, while we're allied together, before the jig is officially up with him, and after we just got done beating the shit out of each other. This in no way furthers his endgame. In fact, if Joker didn't already know he was gonna betray the Phantom Thieves, he'd certainly figure it out now. Akechi just couldn't help himself. His obsession with Joker, his desire to defeat him in all parts of life, all of that got the better of him, and he just needed this personal duel to take place before he killed Joker in service of a greater plan. But the thing that really cements this as one of the most incredible scenes in the entire game to me is Joker's reaction to the "I hate you" line. He doesn't show surprise of any kind. No exclamation point, no question mark, nothing. He just shifts to a more relaxed stance, as if this is what he expected to hear from Akechi all along. No one else can read Pancake Boy like a fucking book quite like Joker can. And based on the dialogue responses you can give, it seems like this hybrid of resentment and adoration is entirely mutual. It's one of the strongest instances of Joker feeling like his own character, instead of a self-insert. And one of the many reasons I find his relationship with Akechi to be one of the most interesting ones in all of Persona. Ranks 9 and 10 play out the same way as they did in the automatic social link, which is good because, as I said, those were the only scenes in the link that were worth a damn. You can kind of tell this scene was written before the rest of the Royal link, and yet there are so many pieces of this final showdown that feel enhanced with the context from the rest of the link. Not just Akechi's line about his life and public image, but when Morgana says, "You don't really hate Joker, do you?" Damn, it hits a lot harder after you actually hear Akechi insist that he does hate you. Like, I never really thought about that Morgana line during my vanilla playthroughs, but ever since the first time I played Royal, it has stuck with me for years. Between this tremendous social link and the outstanding use of him in the third semester, it's hard to see base game Akechi as nothing more than an unfinished beta version of the character. Royal did such a tremendous job of fully realizing him and exploring what it means to have such a prominent and obsessive love-hate relationship with someone. He's a messy, occasionally inconsistent, yet fucking unforgettable character. And I have practically no problems with his new social link. Every June 9th, I eat some delicious pancakes in his honor. Thank you for your service, funny pancake man. You know, if you saw our previous LEGO Star Wars video, you might have noticed this one segment entitled The Two Brilliantest Levels. Kinda makes this video into a foregone conclusion, but I guess if you haven't seen it, you get to be surprised here. Unless you play the original game, cause then you know exactly which two levels are the best. Let's start with Jedi Destiny. Holy shit, this is a good level. It's pretty much exclusively just the final boss battle against Palpatine, and man is it dripping with atmosphere. Hearing his theme blare in the background as you challenge him to a duel is just so satisfying.
First things first. Holy Stromboli, Sidious! That's a lot of hearts! Secondly, I love the touch that they don't go for complete accuracy with this level, and they give Palpatine his lightsaber. Future LEGO games have him just try to zap Luke and Vader, but that's not Palpatine at his full capacity. We gotta have the boss fight that they decided to omit from the prequels, with a 6-spinning Senate. And thirdly, it makes sense that they would pair you up with Vader, so you can have two characters, but still, the last playable character in the game's story modes being Vader, and having a Sith Lord work for the light is so surreal and so spectacular.
Palpy takes a few cues from Dooku's book and shoots lightning at one of you, forcing you to switch to the other character and attack him if you're in single player, or just remind your co-op partner to attack if you're in co-op. You then gotta chase him through the room a bit and navigate his electro floor, use a fan to ride up to where he's at, and occasionally take on his Imperial guards who have really funny death sounds, which is the staple of this game, obviously. I love how if you use the disarm troopers extra that turns stormtroopers blasters into carrots, it does the same thing to the royal guards, but they still use them to attack and do the same damage as normal. That's funny.
Despite being a boss level, there are plenty of secret rooms and wide open spaces to hide mini-kits. The neatest of all these hidden rooms has got to be this red one with the chairs straight out of the Jedi Temple. That's such a funny little detail, cause Palpatine Palpatine would be such a petty asshole that he'd keep the Jedi Council room chairs as trophies in his secret Sith storage room. You keep chasing down Sheev until he has one heart remaining, at which point he goes to the center of the map where that ever-iconic balcony is located. One last strike to bring balance to the Force. The euphoria of Palpatine's defeat in Return of the Jedi is enhanced exponentially because it was you who dealt the killing blow. I said killing blow.
Somehow, Palpatine returned.
Some of the puzzles in this level to get mini kits and secrets are surprisingly complex, which is a refreshing change of pace. On the other hand, it's very satisfying to grab the power brick sitting in Palpatine's throne room, hidden behind some Sith magic panels, cause in any other level, you'd have to come back here and free play to get it. But with Darth Vader on your side, it's no problem for a change. I think it's just really easy to see why this is such a beloved and incredible level. The atmosphere here is electric, the secrets are great, the fight is fun, it's immensely satisfying from a story perspective because of its deviations from the source material, not in spite of them. It's just an absolute banger level. But of course, it was outdone by one other. The Lion King is an unprecedented cinematic achievement that can never be replicated. So why even try? Hakuna Matata, come on. Every frame of this film screams iconic, from the magnificent circle of life sequence to the visceral, intense stampede scene. The emotions conveyed through simple facial expressions, vibrant colors, expressive movement, all the things that can only be encapsulated by animation, are simply astounding. This is a rich, mature, boundary-pushing, gorgeously styled story that flows perfectly, hits hard dramatically, offers a ton of great comedy as a counterbalance, and stands the test of time as the crowning achievement of a studio at the top of their game. I simply don't even know what I could possibly say about this film that hasn't already been said. No, seriously, you guys got anything? I'm kind of at a loss for words. It's just so grand in every way. It doesn't feel too cartoonish or slapsticky, which is a trap some of the other films can fall into on occasion. Every character is iconic in their own way, every setting beautiful, every song engaging, every emotional beat satisfying. The worst song in the movie is still catchy as hell and integral plot-wise, and the other four are absolutely pitch perfect. Unlike Mulan, which had very few songs and only one real banger, this one has such phenomenal music that the low song count is totally fine. Oh, speaking of music, I'm just gonna come out and say it. The Lion King has the single best score I've ever heard in a movie. And I've heard some great ones, mind you, but this movie's score is absolutely stunning. Keep in mind, I don't throw best of all time around willy-nilly. It's usually my favorite, because objectivity in film is really hard. But I stand by this. The Lion King is the best film score ever written. Somehow, this is the only movie score Hans Zimmer won an Oscar for, but if we gotta pick just one, then I can't argue with this one. The score enhances the ambiance of every scene, makes for such compelling action, introspection, lightheartedness, and tragedy. It isn't solely responsible for this movie's artistic merit, but it's a very big part of it. And it's the centerpiece to one of the greatest scenes in film history. A scene I physically cannot get through without chills or sobbing or both. I mentioned that A Whole New World was in my top 10 favorite movie scenes of all time. This is in my top 3. I briefly touched upon its impact in my Elsa video, and I don't know if I could ever truly express its magnificence with words. The cloudy vision of Mufasa reminding Simba of his destiny, which then turns into Mufasa as Simba remembered him as the music swells. Dude, it's unbelievable. You know it's unbelievable, I don't need to tell you. Literally the only problem I have with this movie is Matthew Broderick's weird voice. Otherwise, this is the most iconic animated film of all time. How could I not adore it? And yet, Disney already made something even better. This Is How We Will End It is a fan favorite, and for good reason. It's kind of epic, and I mean that in both an unironic and ironic sense. Like, on the one hand, the presentation is really strong. It's both creative and thematically appropriate, since Alejandro played all the contestants like puppets. And Alejandro and Heather's rivalry is really compelling and makes for great drama that's channeled into an intense rockin' song. But on the other hand, come on, man, that Alejandro hand puppet is kind of a joke, and the lyrics are a little wonky. This song isn't perfect, but at the end of the day, I can't deny how climactic and cool it feels, in spite of its silly elements. Or maybe even partially thanks to its silly elements. And it's musically pretty strong as well, so yeah, I definitely love it as much as everyone else. Great stuff. Hey!
Get away from him, Mitch!
I love the Alien series. It's just so cool, man. I'm not even a big horror guy, but just something about these movies, and the Xenomorph specifically, is just exhilarating to think about. I finally watched all the ones I hadn't seen before earlier this year when Romulus came out. And by all the ones I hadn't seen before, I literally mean every single one past the first two. I was kinda slacking. And don't get me wrong, I don't love all the movies, but like, I don't know, that's also how I feel about Star Wars. So I'm pretty comfortable calling myself an Alien fan. And wouldn't you know it, the very first sequel to the iconic Ridley Scott original also happened to be helmed by James Cameron. He was relatively inexperienced when they brought him onto the project, which was rather hard to get off the ground and took a while to come out. It's not the most infamous troubled production in the history of the series, but it still wasn't easy. And just on paper, the idea of making a follow-up to a movie as visionary and special as Alien without Ridley Scott at the helm kinda sounds insane and disastrous. But you probably know how the story actually goes. Aliens is one of the most iconic and beloved sequels of all time. Expanding on the original, yes, but also shooting out in an entirely different direction, resulting in a hybrid horror action flick. It shouldn't work. It shouldn't feel like a perfect and natural follow-up to Alien. But by God, it is. And even though the first and second films are both 10 out of 10 masterpieces to me, I gotta be honest, I think the second film is my favorite for so many reasons that we'll get into. I mean, let's just start with the damn title. Aliens. I'm sorry, that is the most genius sequel title I've ever seen in my life. Even outdoing Madagascar, Escape to Africa. I mean, that just says it all. What if the terrifying, ruthless killer that picked off an entire crew in less than 24 hours was f***ing plural? This does kind of feed into an issue a lot of people take with this film in comparison. The Xenomorphs are definitely easier to take down, considering all the weaponry at the protagonist's disposal. I don't know, man. I don't think that douses the terror at all. Yeah, the first film is a bit scarier, but it's still hard to feel safe during this one. The scares come more from the anticipation whenever a group of them approach on the radar. You can see it on everyone's faces, and you're right there with them, just terrified out of your mind. The overwhelming numbers of xenomorphs is more than enough to cancel out how safe the weapons make you feel. That's another thing I really appreciate about this movie. Where the first Alien bathed itself in mystery and eerie suspense as the ship approached the planet, the approach in this movie is filled with gung-ho, militarized confidence. Everyone's joking around, you hear that army music playing, you really start to let your guard down a bit because, okay, the situation feels overwhelmingly in the protagonist's favor this time. Ripley knows exactly what the alien is capable of, and she's coming back with a bunch of armed troops ready to kill them all at a moment's notice. What could possibly go wrong this time? And then the creepy score from the previous movie kicks in when you see the colony on the monitors, and all that dread comes creeping back as you remember, oh yeah, there's no way they're all making it out of this alive. Despite being an action film, Aliens doesn't betray the deliberate slow pacing of its predecessor. It takes a damn hour before we actually see the xenomorphs, but the buildup is absolutely incredible. And the reveal that they're all lining the walls is just chef's kiss, so damn good. Not only is the pacing pretty consistent with the original, but each alien reveal is so carefully laid out and uniquely terrifying. What are you gonna remember more? A cheap jump scare? Or the sight of a xenomorph slowly rising out of the water behind Newt? Or the quiet sight of acid blood so you can realize at the same time as Ripley and Bishop that the Queen stowed away? I don't really love the assertion some people make that this film does away with the original sense of horror. It's all still there. And I certainly felt a lot more terrified throughout this film than I did throughout a lot of straight horror films in the series, like 3 or Covenant. I don't even think this film is all that crazy from an action perspective, especially compared to other Cameron films. But it's the blending of that genre's elements with the classic alien horror we know and love from the first film that really gives this one its own unique flavor. It doesn't feel like it's trying to be Alien again. It's doing something different while also widening the scope of the universe with additions like the Colonial Marines and the Alien Queen. Ultimately though, I think what makes this film work so well for me is that I personally believe it is the most compelling portrayal of Ripley as a protagonist. Even though I hate that movie, Alien 3 is somewhat a contender in that regard. But I think there's two factors that put Aliens over the edge for me. First, it's genuinely upsetting seeing Ripley's PTSD from the events of the first movie. Watching her grapple with it throughout the first act, and catching glimpses of it later on. It's pretty effective. And so is her trying to hide it and putting on a brave face for Newt. Oh my god, what a simple yet brilliant addition. A kid to care about and want to see protected who isn't annoying. Dude, when she does the little salute, that's when I knew this was a 5-star movie. Her cryptic dialogue, the fact that she remains traumatized and shell-shocked throughout, that conversation she has when Ripley tucks her into bed, and she clinically tells Ripley the doll isn't alive and won't have bad dreams like she will. It's so heartbreaking to see her innocence completely gone as a result of this swarm of monsters. And this scene absolutely stuck with me, just as much as all the more intense and scary ones. This is the second factor that makes Ripley's arc in this film work so well for me. It's beautiful seeing her become a surrogate mother to Newt. And they mostly don't beat you over the head with it. Mostly. I don't know if Newt needed to call her mommy at the end, but whatever, I can let it slide. There's just so much great characterization for Ripley here, and it's done through both the writing and the stellar performance. I mean, get this. Sigourney Weaver was nominated for an Oscar for this performance. Yes, for an action, horror, sci-fi sequel. I still can't even process that. Even today, when blockbusters like Mad Max Fury Road or Dune get nominated for Best Picture, it's not like they're getting any acting nominations. This was a mind-boggling, stunning, and entirely deserved achievement for Sigourney and the movie itself. Turning my attention to Aliens as a piece of Cameron's filmography, I think it's an absolutely stunning directorial accomplishment. The set design and the special effects are immaculate. As timeless as the original Alien mostly is, there are definitely a few effects that don't look super convincing by modern standards, as well as a few times where the alien is pretty easily recognizable as a guy in a suit. I don't want to take away from the original film, oh god no, it's still incredibly terrifying. I just wanted to point out that it does have a few dated visuals, which there's no shame in. I don't really get that from Aliens at all. Every environment and every xenomorph looks incredibly convincing. And while there are a few iffy shots of the ships flying around, they fit right into that 80s sci-fi charm, and I don't mind them at all. And you can definitely see the beginnings of the military aesthetic Cameron loves oh so much here. If you told me this movie was made by the guy who would go on to direct Avatar, I would respond, yeah, no shit. Not only does he love his military visuals, he clearly loves pushing the boundaries of visual effects more than most filmmakers would ever dare dream of. And that's what Aliens feels like. Something that pushes the limits of what the original film was, and dares to ask, what if it was bigger? Not better, obviously that's very subjective, but you simply cannot deny that this is a much bigger film than the first. While a follow-up to Aliens so easily could have been a nice, simple retread of the original, that clearly wasn't in the cards for a director with a vision as wide as Cameron's. And the Alien series is undoubtedly all the better for it. It didn't go down as a one-hit wonder franchise. Even though most people agree that the first film is unmatched, it's difficult to argue that this isn't a worthy follow-up. Pulse-pounding, exciting, iconic in every way, almost single-handedly responsible for inspiring the Metroid franchise as we know it. I know this is a somewhat bold claim, but this has gotta be my favorite Alien movie of all time.
You have been replaced.
Alright, these past few villains have been pretty great and stuff, but these top two are the only ones I would declare to be among some of the best villains in animation history. Absolute top tier stuff we're working with now. And to start off, let's take a look at the sinister, murderous dictator who I constantly see plushies and merchandise of at the mall.
Strawberries.
Look, all I'm saying is, whether I'm a kid or an adult, I would not find any comfort snuggling up to this face after watching Toy Story 3. Quite the opposite, in fact. To this day, Lotso is the only Pixar villain who I have seen compared to Adolf Hitler multiple times. I'm not trying to say that's an apt comparison. I personally wouldn't go that far. I'm just saying multiple people have come to that conclusion. It's a real testament to great voice acting and great writing that he manages to be as sinister as he is, looking like that. I really like his tragic backstory and how the movie doesn't even attempt to use that as a way to sympathize with him, just as a way to explain his actions. He's basically the equivalent of Woody in the first film, being bitter and resentful that someone else has replaced him, except he channels those feelings into a far darker path. It's not enough to just go in this daycare and be loved by kids. He has to exert control over the entire place, over his former friends, over all the innocent toys here, all to make up for the loss of control in his own life. See, if I were Lotso, I would have just killed the new Lotso. That seems a lot easier. He's a great manipulator, not only intimidating Chuckles into keeping quiet about the fact that he and Big Baby weren't replaced, but also convincing Buzz that the new toys should be stuck with the little kids, since the older toys can't handle that kind of playtime anymore. It sounds like a pretty reasonable explanation, even though it's all a front for this twisted caste system he's concocted. Hell, even before that, the fact that he walks in on the Buzz torture scene and has the gall to be all like, "Oh, no, that's not how we do things at Sunnyside." It's like he relishes in manipulating people. Hell, you can also see it when he throws Woody's hat to the ground, as if to say, "Yeah, we got him." No, you didn't, asshole. He got away. But his friends don't need to know that. They only need to know what the master propagandist tells them. But the thing that really cements this guy as one of the most twisted motherfuckers I've ever seen in an animated film is, of course, the climax. The gang is all at the dump, headed for the incinerator. A situation Lotso dragged them into, literally, as he grabbed a hold of Woody inside the dumpster. Hey, how did he get high enough to grab him? I've always wondered that. It doesn't look like this trash was stackable enough to form a ladder. And how did the alien get trapped underneath this lid? Because logistically, based on the way he was running, that doesn't make sense. Boy, I hope Disney addresses all of these incredibly valid and movie-ruining problems when they remake this film in live action. Anyway, even after all that, Woody and Buzz risked their lives to save Lotso from the saw blade. They are just too good to this guy who frankly doesn't deserve any sympathy. But regardless, they save him and expect to be saved in return when they give him a boost to turn off the conveyor belt that's leading them into the furnace. And I knew, even as a kid, I knew he wasn't gonna turn it off. But that doesn't make this moment any less appalling.
Where's your kid now, Sheriff?
What does he even have to gain from letting them die? In this moment, he shows his true colors for all to see. Just a completely irredeemable, monstrous sociopath who, quite frankly, deserved to die. Pixar usually isn't one to kill off its antagonists in as gleefully gruesome ways as Disney. But oh my god, did this guy deserve to get run over by a garbage truck or something. Not tied to the hood of one. That's so lame. I am out for stuffing when I see this dumb bitch. Overall, a fantastic villain. One who would by far be the crowning jewel of Pixar's rogue gallery. If it wasn't for, well... You know, it's kind of funny how the detail on the Mario Kart 8 version of Tick-Tock Clock makes the original DS iteration look like an unfinished beta version.
No shit!
It's also funny how said unfinished beta-ass looking version is nonetheless an S-tier course, and my second favorite in the entire game. I mean, holy shit, this course has so much going for it. Starting with the theme. How often do you see a direct Mario Kart adaptation of a stage from one of the main platformers? It's honestly pretty rare, which makes this Mario 64 homage an absolute treat. It's even more direct of a tribute than Airship Fortress, which is based on a level theme from Bros 3, but it isn't quite as specific as this direct 64 parallel. Even without the reference, you're racing inside a clock.
Well, I've heard of racing the clock, but this is ridiculous!
That's just a cool concept on its own, with an on-point aesthetic and a ton of horizontal and vertical shifting gears. They fit the theme and provide a ton of crucial decisions to make regarding where you should be driving. Which way are the gears turning and which way will slow me down? Am I gonna bump into this pendulum? Can I hit these boost panels without getting struck by the spinning clock hands? There's just so much at play with this course. It's easily one of the most dynamic tracks the series had ever seen at this point, and I've never had a single race on it that wasn't a complete blast. The music is kinda average, not bad at all, but not outstanding. And that's really the only bad thing I can say about this course. It deserves to be remembered as one of DS's crowning achievements. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm gonna go give the gold crown to the same course everyone else gives it to. Okay, I'm gonna sound like an insane person for this ranking, but hear me out. I always love playing on Choco Island 1 because the bumps in the road make your character hop up and down, and that makes me happy. That's it. That's all there is to it. I mean, it's a good course with no frustrating elements and a few areas with shortcut potential if you have a mushroom. It would have made it to B tier even without the jumps. But like, look at them involuntarily hopping up and down like that. That's just funny. Look, this game doesn't have much. Just let me have this, okay? I probably should have ranked Bowser Castle 3 and Rainbow Road higher, but like, look at the hopping. I love that. Congratulations, Choco Island 1. You're an absolute delight. But with all that said, now we get to the number 1 slot. And in terms of which tier it's in, we're jumping all the way straight up to B tier. It's still B tier. It's like not that good or anything, sorry. It's still pretty good though. Let's talk about it.
See, that's the thing, Shen. Scars heal.
I mean, it's kind of hard to argue with Scar's resume, you know? Like, he legit won. He did it. He set out to kill his brother and steal the throne, and that's exactly what he did. He was overthrown like a decade later, but until then, yeah, the Pride Lands were his. He is arguably the most accomplished Disney villain out of all of them, which already earns him a ton of points. But as an added bonus, he's also one of the most entertaining and delightful villains to watch. Jeremy Irons' voice just drips with malevolence, delivering a ton of dark, but also dryly funny lines. As if his Machiavellian aims weren't good enough, he's also an absolute self-obsessed diva who commands the screen every single time he appears. It's so sick how he constantly manipulates and gaslights Simba, including making him believe he was responsible for his father's death. As if killing the man wasn't enough, you're gonna convince his son that it was his fault? Unbelievable. And yet so diabolical that it contributes to an amazing villain. One for the animation history ages. Some people take issue with the fact that he's not really interesting as king, just kind of a petulant child who doesn't know shit about running a kingdom. But like, that's completely in line with his character in the first half of the movie. That was who he always was, and he serves as a great contrast to Mufasa as king, an absolutely selfish leader only looking out for number 1. Plus, I think the main thing that still perfectly props him up is the fact that he's still as sharp as ever when Simba returns in the final act. He's still perfectly capable of manipulating Simba to the edge of a cliff, with no one leaping to help him because they all still think Mufasa's death was on him. He was just brought down by his hubris and his desire to get one last gloat in over his evil plan. And then later, his silver tongue is his undoing when he talks shit about the hyenas and they turn on him. Poetic cinema, baby. I really love how there are 2 instances where Scar doomed himself because he just couldn't shut the fuck up. It's very in line with his self-obsessed diva-ish character. Oh yeah, I forgot to write this in the script, but he also has one of the best villain songs of all time. You already know this though. Overall, a sensational villain I have no real problems with. He's a blast and a menace to watch from start to finish. But the top spot just barely eluded him. Because, well...
This is a Christmas Carol! The Muppet Christmas Carol!
The Muppet Christmas Carol is a fan favorite, and it's pretty easy to see why. For all its goofiness and Muppet chicanery afoot, it's weirdly a pretty good adaptation of A Christmas Carol. Like, it hits all the beats from the original story pretty effectively, and I actually got emotionally wrapped up in it. As much as I love the wackier films, I do have a soft spot for slightly more grounded and heartfelt Muppet stuff. And this is easily one of their most heartfelt films. I think the main thing holding this entire film together is Michael Caine's performance. Like, he is just absurdly good as Scrooge, and he didn't need to be. He could have so easily phoned in his performance in the haha goofy puppet movie. But he takes it so seriously, and that's what makes the movie work so well. I also don't think it would have been nearly as good if one of the Muppets played Scrooge. Unlike, say, Jim from Treasure Island, where I would have welcomed it. Here, the emotional core is so strong because Michael Caine is just going for it. Like, I actually cried at this movie, and not just the first time I watched it either, but on this rewatch too. I cried over the frog puppet version of Tiny Tim dying. That's the level of commitment to the bit that this movie is operating on. It got me sincerely emotionally invested in the grief of Kermit and Miss Piggy. But it also helps to have a human actor there who's really bringing his A game, who conveys really good, strong emotion and helps bring the story to life effectively. I can't stress enough, this movie is so much better than it has any right to be. It's a little bit lighter on the gags than a usual Muppets film, and really, one of my main problems with it is that as much as I love Gonzo and Rizzo, and as much as they do have great moments in this, sometimes it can be a little much, and they distract a little bit from the story with their side tangents. They'll do stuff that's not really related to anything going on in the story. It's just, here's Gonzo and Rizzo slapstick so you don't get bored. I don't know. I also think music-wise, this is one of the weaker Muppet films. Like, the songs are pleasant and fit the story very well, but there's very few that I remember compared to any of the other theatrical Muppet movies. I mean, I guess this one has better songs than Muppets from Space, but that's because Muppets from Space gave up on the whole being a musical thing. I also really like in this how they gave Statler and Waldorf their only actual role within a story. Like, they fit the Jacob Marley role really well, and honestly, they're just two of my favorites in general. Like I said, I didn't really grow up watching Muppet media outside of Sesame Street, but anytime I did catch a glimpse of some Muppet-related stuff, it was the two heckling old guys that always got the biggest laugh out of me. I also think it's pretty cool how they create original Muppets for Christmas past, present, and future. It kind of fits in with that whole taking the story kind of seriously thing they're going for. And they have really cool and interesting designs. I don't really know what else to say. This is a certified Christmas classic. I started watching it on a yearly basis during the holiday season, and that really isn't something I do for a whole lot of movies. This one's just got all the best vibes to it. It's not perfect, it's a little uneven in some places, but man, is it such a distinct and heartwarming Muppet film. Definitely one of my favorites.
I want peanuts!
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to hate the Peanuts movie. This is consistently ranked as one of Blue Sky's best, if not the best film from them, and it's easy to see why. I think this film mostly deserves credit not for what it does, but for what it doesn't do. It doesn't try to modernize it or throw these peeps into the real world. It doesn't cast terrible, overpaid celebrities as iconic, beloved characters, completely bastardizing them in the process. It doesn't turn this property into a weird superhero crossover thing that has nothing to do with the original story. Seriously, what the fuck was Scoob? It deadass just is a classic feeling Peanut story brought to life with 3D animation. I don't know why it's so hard for studios to understand and adapt the appeal of classic properties, but this is an actual example of that sort of thing done right. I really like this movie, but I feel like its praise can be a bit overblown sometimes, mainly because the rest of Blue Sky's tepid filmography makes it look a shit ton better by comparison. Like, I saw a comment once that said that this is Blue Sky's Spider-Verse. Has that person even seen Spider-Verse? Like, what? This is a very sweet and cozy film, but it's definitely not perfect. They do sneak in one weird, out-of-place pop song during the movie, which really took me out of what otherwise felt like an authentic Peanuts story. I did want more of some characters, like Peppermint Patty and Marcy. Even Linus gets sidelined pretty hard, which is surprising. And I'ma keep it real with you, Chief. I could not give less of a shit about Snoopy's Red Baron dream sequences. They start off cute, but they just go on, and there's so many of them during the second half that it's ridiculous. I know this is an imaginary story, guys. There's no tension here. Can we cut back to Charlie Brown? That's the part I'm actually interested in. But yeah, the Charlie Brown story is good and really compelling. You just really want him to catch a break and impress the little red-haired girl. And while it's sad to see all his missteps, it's nice that most of them happen because he does the right thing and helps his friends. Charlie Brown is just such an honest, pure character, and this movie really gets that. Like, there's a scene where everyone's praising Charlie Brown at this assembly because he got a perfect score on his test, but it turns out he accidentally put his name on the wrong one, and this is actually Peppermint Patty's. So what does he do? He comes clean about it right then and there when he realizes it. Whereas every other shitty-ass kids movie would have him lie because he likes the attention, and then eventually the liar will be revealed and everyone will hate him, and then he'll realize he was wrong. No, none of that bullshit in Peanuts, thankfully. This isn't Dear Evan Hansen. Yeah, I mean, it's the Peanuts movie. What else is there to say? It's cute, it's sweet, it's wholesome as heck. I loved all the little references to other Peanuts stories they put in there. It's just a very nice movie. The story does feel a bit stretched out and not all of it works, but the stuff that does is very charming. Definitely worth a watch. Hit it! I cannot stress enough how much of a fucking miracle this movie is. I almost want to make a second video about it because I feel like I didn't cover nearly everything that's amazing about Shrek 2. I love every single scene in this movie. Every single aspect of it works. Not only is it consistently funny, not only is it a perfect extension of the first movie's world, not only is it tightly written to the point where there's barely any filler, not only does the entire soundtrack slap, not only is the story deeply emotionally driven and really heartwarming, not only is the entire cast amazing in their roles, not only does it have the best DreamWorks villain ever, not only is the climax unbelievably phenomenal beyond all reason, but this movie gave us Doris, voiced by Larry King, a true cinematic icon. I could go on and on about this movie, but I think you already know why it's a masterpiece. What a godsend of a feature film. I truly never expected Shrek 2 to be more important to my adulthood than my childhood, but I think that's just a testament to its staying power as an integral cornerstone of both pop culture and my generation. It's one of only 2 DreamWorks films that I would give that rare, elusive 10 out of 10 score to. And I think you can already guess what the other film is.
Oh shit! A rat!
I've never really talked about it before, but I really like Ratatouille. That was a joke, actually. I have talked about it for a long time before. Yeah, there's not a whole lot I can really say about Pixar's magnum opus that I haven't already covered recently. It is just leaps and bounds ahead of most of the studio's output. It almost feels too sophisticated for them, which is crazy since their movies are already really smart and clever and witty and mature and emotional. But this one just cranks all of those attributes up to 12. It is a tour de force in the realm of animation. But again, I have an hour-long video about this film that you can check out at your leisure. Let's move on to number 1.
Once you've established the road, you and your child can enjoy the road.
Mad Max 2: The Road Warrior is exactly what I expected going into the original trilogy, while only having knowledge of Fury Road. It's a lower budget, less stylized version of it, which nonetheless has all the thrilling filmmaking sauce you'd come to expect from someone on George Miller's level. It feels a lot more confident and more assured of what it wants to be than the first film did. The pacing is absolutely perfect, and the title character is by far at his coolest in this film. I love his demeanor, his line deliveries, the synergy he has with this adorable yet vicious puppo. It's such a shame Mel Gibson is, Mel Gibson, because he has such blinding charisma in this film, most of which is completely absent from Thunderdome, but I've talked about that movie enough. Seeing the progression of the apocalypse compared to the first movie is really interesting. Like, the roads are still there, but every other semblance of the old world is kinda gone, replaced with brutal leather daddy gangs and forts constructed of repurposed car parts. I found myself really growing attached to this ragtag group of stragglers Max encounters, and hoping they get out of this okay. The kid especially is such an effective anchor for both the story and for Max. And he doesn't even speak. In fact, he's a little feral. But man, the stuff they conveyed with him without any words hooked me so much more than those stupid ass kids in that other movie. Okay, I'm sorry, we're not talking about that one anymore. The boomerang scene is pretty sick, but my favorite thing with this kid is just that small scene where Max gives him the little music box that plays Happy Birthday. Like, I can't get that out of my head. It's such a beautiful, tender little moment in the midst of all the chaos and insanity in this movie. I didn't want any of these guys to die, but this kid's safety especially got my heart beating super fast during the ending action sequence. Speaking of which, the action is not only way more frequent in this movie compared to the first one, but it's so much more engaging and exciting as well. Top-notch stuff. Obviously not the best of the entire franchise, but by 1981 standards, it's pretty mind-blowing, and the pulse-pounding score enhances every action beat immensely. Oh, and as if all this wasn't good enough, we even get Helicopter Guy. I like him because helicopters are awesome, and I like how he has a small helicopter and he flies around. I think that's pretty epic. He has a really fun dynamic with Max, too. And I think it's pretty clear that this is what inspired Nux in Fury Road. They start out as enemies, only to become mutual partners in the midst of all this insanity. And despite of how little Max actually cares about him, he keeps coming back to help and save him. It's so enjoyable. I just couldn't get enough of this guy. I did find Max's attempt to leave and subsequent tussle with the gang to be a bit rushed, and I don't quite understand how someone as injured as he was perfectly fine driving the truck in the final battle, but these are pretty minor issues. Overall, a stunning achievement, one of the best action movies out there. For a really long time, the crown jewel of the Mad Max franchise. Obviously, times have changed in that regard, and yet, I don't think this movie has lost too much of its luster. It's still fantastic to come back to or watch for the first time like I did. Even if you don't like the first Mad Max very much, the second is extremely worth your time. And then you can watch Fury Road and Furiosa afterwards. Nothing happens in between.
And in that Midas, they decided to play Saving Private Ryan at full volume.
Once again, if there's one thing I'm exceptionally tired of, it's Oscar-nominated war movies. They're almost always well made from a technical standpoint, but like, good lord, I get it. War is hell. It sucks. It's bad. The end. They certainly have their audience, but every time award season rolls around and I try watching all the nominated movies, it's just like, oh, we're doing one of these again? Okay. I just can't stress enough how much these movies just aren't for me. With that said, Saving Private Ryan is one of the best movies I've ever seen in my life. I don't know, man. To me, this is just the quintessential example of what a war movie can accomplish, showcasing the unflinching reality of how horrific and visceral combat is, while also displaying a uniquely human sensibility. You get attached to Tom Hanks and his band of troops as they try and carry out their mission that, despite the noble intentions it has for this one mother, might not seem worth the potential lives of 8 other people. Like, yeah, we gotta save Matt Damon, but is it really worth losing Vin Diesel over? Who's gonna perform cool car stunts and teach us the value of family? It's kind of a difficult and complex situation to swallow, but orders are orders after all. One aspect of the film I really find fascinating is the fact that the opening 30-minute D-Day sequence isn't actually related to the whole Saving Private Ryan plotline. Story-wise, you could start the movie with Normandy already stormed. Like, if you look at the Wikipedia synopsis of the film, the entire 30-minute opening is summarized in just the first sentence. But with that said, this movie would not be the same without it. First of all, because it's the best scene in the damn movie, and one of the best action scenes I've seen in any movie. Grippingly staged, impeccably shot, with just so much gore that adds some real texture to the scene. I was glued to my seat the entire time, and only once Tom Hanks started drinking his water did I let out one of the deepest exhales of my entire life. This sequence really blew me away. But aside from it just being an amazing scene, it's unremovable because it casts such a large shadow over the rest of the film. We've been shown how brutal this war is, so now we really don't want to see our boys get eviscerated as they begin this hopeless seeming quest to locate Ryan. The dark and disturbing tone of the war has been set perfectly by the opening, and as a result, I couldn't look away from anything happening in the following 2.5-ish hours. But credit where credit's due. The rest of the movie after the D-Day scene is also damn fantastic. Perfectly paced, with the right amount of tense action broken up by quiet character building scenes. Tom Hanks' character is very sympathetic, but I think the character I was most invested in was Upham. He reminded me a lot of Melchi from Andor. I just generally really like it when silly little guys are thrust into combat scenarios where they're pretty out of their element, and I was really invested in whether he'd be okay or not. I also really like the scenes he has in the final act. Finally, Bryan Cranston is in this movie. That's funny. I always like seeing him pop up in pre-Malcolm in the Middle stuff. And yeah, I don't really know what else to say. I just think this is an absolutely exceptional movie, and I don't really have anything to critique. I've seen a lot of arguments that this is an American propaganda piece, but like, I don't know, it's a movie about World War II. I think if there's any time in history to root for America, it's when their opponent was literally Hitler. Besides, this really isn't a movie about America or nationalism or anything like that. Believe me, I don't even like America very much, and yet I found this movie to be unbelievably gripping, powerful, visceral, and undoubtedly the best war film I've ever seen. Spielberg's level of skill with a variety of genres is simply astounding, and this is easily one of his greatest achievements to date. It would be his greatest film ever, and yet there's one other that tops it.
Oh, You suck it! Oh!
Atlantis The Lost Empire is so damn great! How come none of y'all never told me? Like, seriously, I'm absolutely floored by how good this movie is. I wasn't expecting it at all, but I guess that was my mistake, considering how this movie's directors are the same ones behind Beauty and the Beast, Hunchback of Notre Dame, and the Madagascar Penguins and the Christmas Caper. I am so sorry I ever doubted them. The biggest positive by far is the cast of characters. Like, Milo's a fine, typical Disney protagonist, Kita's a pretty solid princess, Rourke is a good enough villain, blah blah blah. But holy shit, the side characters in this are amazing. They all have these distinct backstories and personalities and styles of humor, and they play off of each other insanely well. God, they all deserve a TV show. Make an Atlantis TV show, Disney. Put it on Disney Plus. I know you canceled one when this movie bombed at the box office, but for the love of God, bring it back. The animation is also really stellar and distinct from any other Disney film. It's got this comic book aesthetic that just looks incredible. It makes every scene just pop, and I can't get enough of it. The story legitimately had a lot of mystery surrounding it. I wasn't sure what was gonna happen or what the Atlantean culture would be like, and I think that's the hallmark of a really strong sci-fi storyline. I also like how adult this movie feels, not just in its jokes and animation style and constant death, but in its messages. Like, there's a legit, strong anti-imperialist message here. The guy who's here to plunder an ancient civilization and kill off its inhabitants in order to get rich is the villain. Which, yeah, exactly. I don't even know what else to say, man. This film is just magnificent. Sometimes its story can be a bit clunky, and I wish we could have gotten even more of the side characters. But overall, this movie is everything Pocahontas should have been. It's everything Sinbad should have been. Hell, y'all are really gonna hate me for saying this, but it's everything Treasure Planet should have been. I'm shocked that more people haven't told me to check this one out in particular, because it's quickly become one of my favorite Disney movies. I don't even miss the songs like I do with Emperor's New Groove. I think they hit the perfect tonal sweet spot for an exciting, mystifying, absolutely incredible action adventure. Please, for the love of God, check this movie out. It's so good, you guys. You have no idea. Okay, so what movie could have possibly topped Spirited Away and taken the title of the best Ghibli movie, in my opinion? Because that just seems too far-fetched to be true. A movie better than Spirited Away would have to be utterly transcendent. It would have to be inhumanly spectacular. A movie that feels less like it was crafted by actual people and more like something that was gifted to us from the heavens. I was pretty confident going in that no such movie existed. And I was dead fucking wrong. The Tale of the Princess Kaguya is one of the best movies I have ever seen in my life. It doesn't feel real. I honestly didn't know movies could be this good, and I'm struggling to think of a single thing wrong with it. This is the film that Takahata's entire career was building towards. The masterpiece he was always destined to make. He is without a doubt my favorite Ghibli director. Even though I didn't love Pompoko and My Neighbors the Yamadas, he did such a tremendously amazing job at developing the profoundly human stories at the heart of Grave of the Fireflies and Only Yesterday. He's just so amazing at showcasing the complex range of human emotions. Better than Miyazaki, in fact, who's still obviously great at it, but tends to focus more on the magical fantasy worlds he's created. But with Takahata, you feel every character's emotion right alongside them. And that's how I describe the Tale of the Princess Kaguya. I felt every conceivable emotion known to man. I was unbelievably charmed and laughing during the opening act. I felt tremendous irritation and anger as Kaguya's father got consumed by his greed. I experienced such profound sorrow every time Kaguya's life and happiness got ripped away from her piece by piece. Sorrow might be an understatement, actually. I don't think any piece of media has made me cry as much as this one has. Not just at the end, but throughout the entire film. It just puts you so perfectly in the depressing headspace of this character, to the point where you feel every single emotion she feels. But at the same time, this movie isn't dull or lifeless, it's literally the opposite. Not only is there still the typical Ghibli lighthearted and humorous moments, but the art style is absolutely stunning and evokes ancient Japanese folklore so perfectly. It's a film as beautiful to look at as it is to immerse yourself within the story, which expertly portrays so many profound themes. That of depression, women being restricted in society, unrealistic standards of beauty and elegance, whether it's worth it to suffer just for the sake of living an authentic life, and so much more. The emotional depth of this movie is astounding in how limitless it feels. I could talk about it for hours and never come close to saying everything there is to say about it. Spirited Away remains remains Ghibli's magnum opus, their most important and unforgettable film. But I personally believe The Tale of the Princess Kaguya is the best Ghibli film, one that should be revered as such for generations to come. Much like how I once said Ratatouille felt too mature and profound even for the already excellent Pixar, the same sentiment absolutely applies to this movie. It feels too amazing to be a Ghibli movie. Let that one sink in. I've been hemming and hawing over what I consider to be the best animated film ever made is. Between Spirited Away, The Prince of Egypt, The Incredibles, all that jazz. But I finally figured it out. It's this. I have never seen an animated movie so flawlessly told, so magnificently realized, and so overwhelmingly powerful until I saw The Tale of the Princess Kaguya. And do you want to know the most insane thing about all of this? This is not my favorite animated film of all time.
I am the Spot.
Okay, so you know how I had that theory about Disney just having a bunch of dog scripts lying around and they attach their pre-existing IPs onto them in order to sell them as a totally real and organic sequel to a random decades-old movie? Yeah, well in that regard, 101 Dalmatians 2, Patch's London Adventure, is pretty similar to Fox and the Hound 2 and Lady and the Tramp 2. There is absolutely no way they initially conceived this story as an organic follow-up to 101 Dalmatians. Those elements just kind of fell into place as they were making it. But, and here's the crucial difference, unlike those other dog sequels, this one is actually genuinely good. Like, no joke. This is a movie that somehow manages to be funny, entertaining, and honestly pretty on par with the original. It's wildly different from the original from a story and tonal perspective, but I honestly derive a similar level of enjoyment from both of these movies. So I think this one kinda goes down as an unequivocal success. Much like Lilo and Stitch 2, it's the kind of movie I could honestly see coming out of the main Disney animation studio. I mean, it is better than all the sequels that studio did make. So what is this movie about anyway? Legit, it's just Bolt, but good. Sorry, Bolt fans, I'm just goofing. I can totally respect how much you guys love that movie, especially since your reaction to me not liking it has been pretty calm and reasonable. You guys are like the opposite of Rio fans. Anyway, in my opinion, this movie does the whole dog thinking he's a superhero concept a lot better. Mainly because it plays up the natural comedy you can get out of that premise. Oh yeah, I guess I should explain that. This movie is about one of the 101 Dalmatians who feels pretty out of place in his family, since I guess all 100 of his siblings don't like him. Okay, sure, seems totally believable. But after accidentally getting left home alone, he comes across this dog who plays a superhero on a TV show he likes. And Super Dog is worried because his sidekick, George Costanza Dog, told him they're gonna replace him. So he tries to perform an act of heroism in real life. All as the Dalmatian, Patch, helps him since he's an expert on the show. And yeah, all the shenanigans they get into are really funny, there's a ton of great jokes from other characters, and the bond they start to form is pretty charming and sweet. It's a simple, but really effective story. And you don't really miss the protagonists from the first movie that much because Patch and Thunderbolt are just so fun to follow. And that's not even getting into Cruella de Vil in this movie. Oh my god. Basically, she falls in love with this eccentric artist Lars, who's easily one of the best characters to come out of any of these direct-to-DVD sequels. And at first, they just kind of make art together, and it's weirdly funny and charming. Until she tells him that she wants to use the puppy's coats as a canvas, and he's just like, why would you do that? So she just kidnaps him and reverts back to her old ways, leading to a batshit fun climax. I feel like most of this segment has just been me explaining the plot, but like, I don't know how else to convey the fact that this movie is genuinely really enjoyable. It probably could have functioned as a standalone story, but I don't know. I think having a villain as iconic and deliciously despicable as Cruella is a massive boon, and it surprisingly fits in really well with the washed-up superhero actor plotline. Both of these stories just have such a manic energy to them, and they intersect in really fun and believable ways. This all makes for a movie that utterly shocked me with how good it is. It's fun, funny, heartfelt, and an absolute delight of a time. Nothing mind-blowing or anything, but it is better than more than half of the official Disney animated canon, which is an insane feat for a direct-to-DVD sequel. An easy recommendation whether you've seen the original film or not. This probably should have topped my list, but well. Number 2, Sherbetland. There are Some places you can duke it out on this version. You can hide underwater and pop out to ambush people. You can just take the glider again and again and hope you hit someone as you fly by. It still sucks a lot, but I hated it less than the other maps. I don't know.
Stop singing!
Damn, I can't believe it, guys, but they really did it. Illumination went ahead and made a C-tier DreamWorks film. I always knew they had it in them. Sing 2 is surprisingly kind of okay. Like, you can tell they put more effort in right from the start. The opening musical segment is better and more visually interesting than the entirety of Sing 1. The elephant even dabs at the end, so that's how you know it's really good. Anyway, most of the cliche character traits that were focused on with the main cast in the first movie don't really play as much of a role in this one. All of the character conflicts our main peeps have now are slightly more interesting to watch. Not amazing or anything, but they're not the most predictable things in the world either. And none of the characters in this are annoying, unlike basically every other Illumination movie where there's at least a couple little shits you can't stand. I don't know, the main cast of the Sing movies, while pretty cliche, are kinda likable and you want to see them succeed and become stars. All of them except for the Seth MacFarlane mouse, who thankfully isn't in this one at all, and they don't even address what happened to him after the last movie. He was last seen driving off with a bear hanging onto his car, so everyone assumes he's canonically dead. And that is just the funniest thing in the world to me. There's also some showbiz related plot lines that I kind of enjoyed. Like how this asshole producer guy forces Mr. Koala to put his daughter in the show even though she can't act. Or the plot about Lion Bono grieving his dead wife and refusing to perform or even listen to his songs for 15 years. I don't know, this shit ain't half bad. But that doesn't necessarily make it all that good. There's a bunch of stuff that gets glossed over real hard, like the daughter gets over not being the lead anymore super easily, and is even willing to do the show behind her father's back. Which, like, wait, when did they show her having problems with her father? That didn't happen, did it? And the porcupine sings a U2 song to Lion Bono to remind him how much he loves making music. That's a nice scene, but then the next time we see him, he's completely convinced to do the show. Wait a minute, shouldn't there have been like a conversation after the song about the ramifications of him coming back? It seemed like he was extremely adamant about not wanting to do it, but then him listening to someone singing one of his songs completely changed his mind? That doesn't make sense. So yeah, there's a bunch of shortcuts the script takes here and there. Plus, much like the first movie, the first act here is also loaded with completely unnecessary pop songs playing one after the other. And the middle kind of drags, and you really just want to see them get to the ending performance already. But overall, despite its problems, I kind of enjoyed myself. The characters are likable, the setting is cool, the villain is decent, the musical segments are really good. It genuinely didn't feel like I was watching an Illumination movie, like I said at the beginning. It gave me a rare spark of hope that the studio was becoming interested in making movies that can be watched and enjoyed by someone over the age of 5. And it was a more than welcome surprise. So yeah, more movies like Sing 2 please, Illumination. I can't believe a slightly above average film warrants a massive W for this studio. But that's where we're at. God, I love the Mitchells vs. the Machines. If anything, I think I like it a little better on rewatch than I did initially. It's just got so much great attention to detail, and the characters are all so likable and entertaining that it's an absolute blast from start to finish. This movie has such a strong grasp on how complex and messy family dynamics can be, and you can so easily understand where both Katie and her dad are coming from. Rick's actions can be pretty insufferable at times, but you know they're coming from a place of genuine care and concern, and a desire to connect with Katie even though he has no idea how. It's so easy to identify with Katie and her desire to get away from such a stifling environment, but it's also incredibly satisfying to see her discover how her father's heart is in the right place, even if he can go a bit far when showing this. It's such a great central dynamic to anchor the film on, and it blends surprisingly well with the robot apocalypse storyline, which is consistently exciting and very funny. The big-ass Furby still makes me laugh out loud. It's just too good. I still have all those same problems with it that I mentioned in my initial review, like some of the humor being a little cringe and dated, as well as the climax just going on a little too long. But those issues didn't really bother me as much on a second viewing, and the good stuff stuck out to me even more. This is undoubtedly the funniest Sony movie, and it's a close second for having the best animation style and most distinct character design. There's so much visual flair that they didn't need to add, but went ahead and did anyway, and it's so unbelievably welcome. I could go on about this movie, even though I've already reviewed it, but it's just so great. Sony really knocked this one out of the park, and I can't wait for the Academy to not give it a Best Animated Feature Oscar, and instead give it to something stupid like Raya and the Last Dragon or something. I really hope that sentence ages poorly, but even even if it doesn't, this is still the best animated feature in my heart. Speaking of which,